Good afternoon. I'm Kathy Chase, President of Advocates for Highway and Auto Safety, also known as Advocates. We are a coalition of public health, safety, law enforcement, and consumer organizations, and insurance companies and agents working to advance safe vehicles, safe drivers, passengers, and road users, and safe roads. Thank you for joining us today. Nearly 1 year ago, the agency within the U.S. Department of Transportation, or DOT, responsible for regulating cars and making roads in the U.S. safe, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA, took the commendable step of issuing a Standing General Order, or SGO, which requires auto and equipment manufacturers and operators to report crashes involving vehicles equipped with automated driving features. The order covers vehicles with systems that combine technologies that are able to control certain aspects of steering and speed, like lane centering assistance and adaptive cruise control. These types of vehicles are increasingly being sold in the US. The order also covers vehicles which are able to perform the complete driving task in limited circumstances, which are not sold to consumers, but are in limited use on public roads around the country for testing, ride sharing, and goods delivery. Advocates lauded NHTSA for taking this action to improve transparency and public safety. We subsequently have been urging the agency to make this data available and commend them for doing so today. The public has a right to know how partially automated systems and autonomous vehicles, or AVs, are performing on our roadways, especially considering currently there are no federal safety standards for these newer systems. Features which fall under the overarching term of Advanced Driver Assistance Systems, or ADAS, like automatic emergency braking, AEB, lane departure warning, and blind spot detection, have been shown to be effective at preventing or mitigating crashes. However, their full potential to save lives will not be realized until the DOT issues minimum performance standards. Advocates, the National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, and others have repeatedly urged the DOT to require proven collision avoidance technology in all new vehicles. And in November of last year, Congress and President Biden enacted a new law requiring the DOT to issue standards for ADAS and require them in new cars. As the data revealed today shows, DOT must act expeditiously on the directives for vehicle safety improvements and ensure that all road users are protected. While more time is needed to analyze the data released this morning, it's clear that US road users are unwitting participants in the beta testing of automated driving technology. The data show that of the 108 entities sent the SGO, the Standing General Order, only 12 reported on ADAS, revealing 392 crashes. 6 crashes were fatal, 5 resulted in serious injuries, and another 41 resulted in minor or moderate injuries. 4 involved a vulnerable road user, such as a bicyclist or a pedestrian. 25 entities reported on automated driving systems, revealing 130 crashes. 16 crashes reportedly resulted in injuries. 11 crashes involved a VRU, or vulnerable road user, including 7 cyclists. I want to again commend NHTSA Administrator Dr. Stephen Cliff and his team for collecting and releasing this critically important information. In 2021, nearly 43,000 people were killed in crashes, the highest number in 16 years. Making vehicles safer is key to reducing this tragic toll, and there's no time to waste, with almost 120 people being killed on our roads every day. I'd like to also thank our distinguished panel of speakers for their safety leadership and participation in this event. At the conclusion, we will welcome questions from the press. Please use the Q&A button to submit questions at any time during the event. I'd like to now know, has Senator Blumenthal joined us? Okay, then I'd like to move on and welcome Senator Ed Markey.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for organizing this very important event today. I want to just thank Kathy, to also recognize Senator Blumenthal, Congresswoman Schakowsky, Joan Claybrook, Ken McLeod, all of these incredible leaders on this very important safety issue. So this is big news today. the National Highway and Traffic Safety Administration is releasing information that is yet another deeply concerning data point about the issues with advanced driver assistance systems, ADAS, and automated driving systems, ADS. For years, Senator Blumenthal and I have been speaking out and writing letters demanding that Tesla and other automakers comply with our auto safety laws and ensure that their ADAS and ADS systems are safe for drivers, passengers, and for all road users. But despite these efforts, we have seen a never-ending parade of reports about Autopilot operating in ways that skirt our auto safety laws and endanger the public, from rolling through stop signs to phantom braking. Tesla has argued that Autopilot makes us safer, but this report provides further evidence slamming the brakes on those claims by Tesla. And Tesla continues to market its ADAS system under the misleading name Autopilot when it should really be called not a pilot. As today's data suggests, this contempt for our auto safety laws has real-world consequences. Here's what we learned today. Nearly 400 crashes occurred in vehicles operating ADAS systems in less than a year. 70% of those crashes occurred in Tesla vehicles, far higher than any other manufacturer. Of the 6 fatalities that resulted from these incidents, 5 involved Tesla. And this is certainly an undercount, as NHTSA only reported the injury severity for a quarter of the incidents. Now, I understand that this data has real limitations, but today's release is not an isolated piece of evidence. Rather, it is yet another signal that Tesla is running regulatory red lights and failing to take common sense safety measures to protect the public. And that's why Senator Blumenthal and I will be sending a letter to NHTSA demanding the agency take swift action to ensure Autopilot and other advanced driver assistance programs no longer pose a danger to the public. I want to thank NHTSA for releasing today's report, but this release cannot be the end of the administration's efforts. NHTSA has an obligation to work urgently to fill gaps in its data and then use this information for aggressive and effective enforcement and regulations. I stand ready to work closely with NHTSA to ensure that Autopilot and other ADAS systems no longer put drivers and passengers and other vulnerable road users in danger. I was run over by a car when I was 5 years old. So I've been paying close attention to this issue since that age. It's important for us to guarantee that people are safe. So I don't know if Senator Blumenthal, my partner in the Senate, has arrived.
No, we're going to go to Congresswoman Schakowsky.
But if he has not, let me turn to just an incredible safety advocate who has been my partner in the House for a generation, the great Jan Schakowsky.
Congresswoman, we cannot hear you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Senator Markey, my good friend. Thank you, Kathy Chase, and advocates, and Joan Claybrook, and Ken McLean, something like that. Anyway, with American Bicycles. So this is so important, and I'm really grateful to NHTSA for releasing the information it did, but it also, it not only talks about the promise of advanced vehicle technology, but also the perils. And is this, should I turn this on? There we go. But also, I want to follow up just a little bit on what Senator Markey has said. We know that companies now are rolling out these technologies but selling them as what they aren't. And the biggest offender really has been Tesla, not alone in the problem, but Tesla has been the worst. And you heard about the use of the term autopilot. Now, my husband, who happens to be a pilot, autopilot means something that would suggest that you can just let go of all, you just set it and then you're on your path and you don't have to worry anymore. That is so far from the truth. And we have found that of the 392 serious accidents under these so-called new technologies, the 273 have been because of Tesla. And there seems to be a disregard for consumer injuries by Tesla, and this is really so problematic. You heard that 6 deaths, 5 serious injuries, and on and on. 4 can hit cyclists and also pedestrians. 10 of them hit animals. So this is a real danger on our highways. Honda, by the way, is number 2 with 10. How much? Honda is second with in serious systems, problems with the systems, 90 accidents. And so, as I said, I'm really glad to have this information. But the other information that Kathy mentioned is that this is one of the highest years of traffic accidents. 43,000 lives were lost on nation's highways. That's a 16-year high right now. So we absolutely need to have the assistance right now of NHTSA. I am so proud that we were able to pass in the infrastructure legislation some really groundbreaking auto safety measures. But they have to now be implemented. And NHTSA has the most important role in making that happen. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration needs to very quickly implement the historic vehicle safety improvement elements that were passed in the infrastructure bill. The law requires these life-saving safety assistance technologies, but now we need the action of this agency to make it happen. So we are definitely calling on them right now to have a sense of urgency, to speed up that operation. We don't want to look years down the future while we're seeing these crashes on the highway, where we're seeing the failure to act on the legislation that is passed. So we need to get to work. And that's the reason I'm here today at this press conference. Thank you so much. I yield back.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Really appreciate your participation and your ongoing leadership. I'd now like to welcome Senator Richard Blumenthal.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the steadfast advocates who brought us together, and my colleague, Ed Markey, who has been such a great ally in this effort. We are sending a letter today to NHTSA demanding more investigation and information. What's been released today is certainly a cause for deep alarm. In fact, it is a ringing alarm bell affirming many of the warnings that we've made over the years. The frequency and severity of these crashes is a cause for yellow lights flashing and maybe red lights flashing on some of this technology. And we need more investigation to determine exactly where the defects are, what the dangers may be, and what steps to take in protecting the public. Many of our warnings have been derided or dismissed, but clearly this data affirms the kinds of warnings that we have issued. Releasing the data is very important because honesty is the first step. But Senator Markey and I are calling on NHTSA to act swiftly, using all of its tools and authorities to prevent more deadly crashes. Should NHTSA find any technology to be unsafe, it ought to act promptly to ensure that that technology is forbidden, not actively deployed in any vehicles. That's a basic function of safety oversight, and it ought to complete all its investigations, not in years from now, maybe not even in months, but right away. It should complete those investigations because lives are at stake. And I am going to continue to work with Senator Markey, with our colleagues in the House, to try to make sure that drivers and everyone on the road are protected. Because remember, it's not only the person behind the wheel, not only the person as a passenger, it is anyone on the roads who may be harmed or hurt by vehicles that are unsafe.
Thank you so much, Senator Blumenthal. We really appreciate your ongoing leadership and your participation today to deliver that critically important message. I'd now like to turn to Joan Claybrook. Joan is the former administrator of NHTSA during the Carter administration, and she's also an Advocates Board member. Thanks, Joan.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to hear the determination and the interest of our three representatives, Senator Blumenthal, Markey, and Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, all of whom have been stalwarts behind auto safety and improving vehicle safety. And the League of American Bicyclists, I'm happy to see them here today to discuss this critically important information that NHTSA has released. And I commend the administrator, Dr. Stephen Cliff, and his staff for their diligence and determination to collect and to share this important information. When I served as administrator, data were the driving force behind agency safety decisions. That hasn't always been the case, and I'm glad to see that Dr. Cliff has made this a priority. And today's release shows that vehicle system failures are putting everyone in our neighborhood streets and roads at risk. This is especially so in California, which is one of the biggest public laboratories. This is a public process and a public laboratory where we're getting this data, and it's very disturbing. Families walking into an auto dealer showroom shopping for a new car expect that the federal government has done its job to assure safety. Historically, consumer confidence in the performance of safety features has been achieved because minimum performance standards are set by NHTSA for many, many different elements of the vehicle. This is not the case with advanced driver assistance systems like automatic emergency braking, or AEB as it's called. Research shows that AEB is highly effective life-saving feature in a car or truck if built and functioning properly. That is, when a crash is imminent, a warning is given, followed by braking if a distracted, drowsy, impaired driver doesn't respond. It's a miracle, really, in improvement. And we want it to be on every car with a minimum vehicle safety standard. AEB and other proven crash avoidance technologies are at hand, but not yet required as standard equipment on new vehicles, and this must change. NHTSA must issue new standards to ensure that these life-saving systems are available on every new car and truck, available and affordable for every family, and perform properly every time. Often automakers have promoted the use of industry voluntary agreements or non-binding frameworks as a substitute for government safety standards. These agreements have been costly failures for safety and for consumers. The data released today confirmed that we cannot trust all auto manufacturers to voluntarily achieve the highest possible level of safety without government requirements. That is the essential element that we need to assure the public is coming fast out of NHTSA. This new NHTSA data also expose the danger of industry efforts to pass legislation in Congress so that they can sell self-driving vehicles before they're required to be safe and secure. That is a disaster. We are all stakeholders in the development and deployment of self-driving cars, those inside the vehicle and those outside. And we are all at risk if faulty and dangerous self-driving technology is on the road without meeting minimum government safety standards and requirements. DOT does not need Congress to direct it to issue safety standards for self-driving cars. The agency already has this statutory authority fully, and it should act on it now. We look forward to continuing to work with Dr. Cliff and his staff to bring down the skyrocketing motor vehicle crash fatalities with proven solutions. And we hope that this release today and this effort by Dr. Cliff and his staff is just the first step. Thank you so much.
Joan, thank you so much. I'd now like to turn to Ken McLeod with the League of American Bicyclists.
Good afternoon. I am Ken McLeod, Policy Director for the League of American Bicyclists at the League. The League is a national nonprofit membership organization dedicated to building a bicycle-friendly America for everyone. I want to thank advocates, Senator Markey, Senator Blumenthal, Representative Schakowsky, and Joan Claybrook for their leadership on traffic safety, and I'm honored to join them today. The United States has a traffic safety crisis. People in the United States are more likely to be killed in motor vehicle crashes than in other similarly wealthy countries. Many countries in Europe, where people were already 2 to 4 times less likely to be killed in traffic than in the United States, have seen traffic deaths decrease in the last few years during the COVID-19 pandemic. In contrast, the United States has seen historic increases in traffic deaths. The most vulnerable, people biking and walking, older adults, and American Indian, Black, Hispanic, and Native Hawaiian people bear disproportionate burdens of traffic violence. Since 2010, the number of people killed while walking and biking has increased nearly 45%. The League welcomes the efforts of the U.S. Department of Transportation and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, to implement a safe system approach and reorient U.S. policy towards the goal of 0 traffic fatalities. The safe system approach has proven successful in other countries and can be successful in the United States. Traffic fatalities are not inevitable, and proactive efforts are a key principle of the safe system approach. NHTSA's Standing General Order is a great example of being proactive by requiring information on promising safety technologies known as Advanced Driver Assistance Systems, ADAS, and Automated Driving Systems, ADS. By collecting information, NHTSA, the public, and policymakers can better understand the performance of these systems and how they impact traffic safety. Similarly, NHTSA's first ever consideration of people outside of vehicles in the New Car Assessment Program, known as NCAP, in the form of Pedestrian Automatic Emergency Braking, AEB, which is an example of Level 1 ADAS, is the type of proactive effort we need more of. Last week, over 4,000 people commented asking for updates to NCAP, with over 750 asking for including cyclist AEB, as the League has requested since 2015. NHTSA should swiftly issue a final rule for NCAP that includes AEB that responds to people walking, biking, and on other personal conveyances. Having data showing that people biking and using scooters have been hit by vehicles using ADS, while people walking have not, is important to know so that the safety of people biking and scooting can be addressed. The League believes ADS will save lives, and that is why we have worked with Argo AI to develop cyclist safety principles for ADS developers. We believe transparency, engagement, and collaboration will save lives, and look forward to further digging into the data released by NHTSA today. Thank you.
Ken, thanks so much. It's so great to continue our ongoing, long-standing partnership with the bicyclists. I'd now like to take some of the questions that have been offered from members of the media. The first one I have is from Rachel Lerman of the Washington Post. I believe it's directed to either of the senators. Can you please outline what the letter requests of NHTSA? I don't know if Senator Blumenthal or Markey are still on and able to answer that question.
This is Senator Blumenthal on. This is Senator Markey. We are going to be asking NHTSA to take additional steps in order to protect safety. And we'll have more details to share very soon, but it's going to be an itemized list of actions which we believe that NHTSA should be taking.
Thank you, Senator. If Gavin Lunning is on, if we have received your question, we're taking questions from the media. If you could provide your affiliation, we'd appreciate it. And question for my staff, are there any other questions? Well, we have Senator Blumenthal. Would you like to add anything to what Senator Markey said now that you're with us regarding the letter to NHTSA?
I would just say that, I would stress that we want clear regulations. We want clear rules of the road, literally, so that consumers are protected. And, you know, in general, what I would say is that this letter is a first step toward demanding more proactive intervention by NHTSA in fact gathering and investigation, but also in giving guidance to us as legislators and also the industry as to what is minimally acceptable.
Thank you, Senator. I have a question from Skip Descant. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, from eRepublic. We already see self-driving taxis on the streets and operating in San Francisco. Should these operations be halted? Well, by federal, I'll defer to the senators, or I'm glad to jump in. Senator Blumenthal, do you have a comment on that?
Well, I'll defer to Senator Markey in the first instance.
Okay.
And we'll defer to you. You should lead on this question, Kathy.
Okay, thank you. We know by federal law that these vehicles are able to be tested. We, of course, are urging for there to be safeguards on how they're testing, because it's unfair to the motoring public, to the non-motoring public, to everyone using the roads, that testing just occur without certain protections, especially for vulnerable road users who don't have a car around them to protect them. So we support testing with safeguards, and we especially support testing in private settings that can mimic some of the real world scenarios so that companies can gather the data that they need.
Without question, we just need strong safeguards around all of these vehicles that are out on the streets of our country. That's what we're going to be asking NHTSA to do, so that the standard is high and that all of these vehicles, you know, are operating under those very, very high standards, which we want to see imposed upon them.
And I would just add, you know, there's no magic here, or to put it differently, if there is any magic, it shouldn't be in the safeguards compared to the technology that goes into the automation. Safeguards should be part of the total package, and the testing should assure that people are protected, whether they're in the car or in another car or pedestrians. But these numbers and the severity of the crashes really are clearly a call to action.
And it's why we're calling upon NHTSA to have a comprehensive investigation that is completed very promptly, because we need to have guidance for every city, every state in our country.
Thank you, senators. Would any of the other participants like to comment, or shall I go on to the next question?
I'll just add that we've had great partners like Bike Pittsburgh that have had testing in their cities, and they've had to advocate for basic information on what that testing involved and how they can contact manufacturers and developers to give feedback on things that they see on the roadway. And that type of feedback is what we need, that type of collaboration and engagement to make sure this technology works for all road users. So having standards and having lines of communication and data is incredibly important as we see these deployments.
Thanks, Ken. Okay, I just got an affiliation with Gavin Lunning. His questions, I think, are probably more directed
Kathy?
to. Yes, Joan.
Yeah, this is Joan. I just would like to say that one of the issues for NHTSA is that it doesn't have enough money to do a lot of the things that it should be doing and can be doing. And the appropriations have been, minuscule for so many years. And I too want them to do all the things that the senators and Jan Schakowsky have urged, and I have urged. But the agency is handicapped by not having enough resources, both staff and money. And I hope that the senators will take that into account and talk with their appropriations committee chairs about this, because we do need this information. We need to have enforcement. We need to have standards to protect the public, particularly with the rising death rate.
Thank you, Joan.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the question from Gavin. How many of the Tesla crashes are autopilot and how many are full self-driving? FSD and autopilot are different, and we would like to know the data split between the two. Does NHTSA have this data? Ray, how many Tesla FSD crashes? Gavin, I think we're still digging into the data. As you know, it was only released this morning, and we haven't really had time to explore their dashboard. Sean, do you have any sense of that question, or should we get back to Gavin at a later time?
We will probably have to get back to Gavin at a later time as we're digging through the individual data itself.
Thanks, Sean. Gavin, we'd be glad to follow up with you. The next question is from Ben Preston with Consumer Reports. You mentioned that Tesla has flouted existing federal regulations regarding their advanced driver assistance technology. What will be done to hold companies that don't comply accountable? It's a great question, Ben. Again, I'd like to defer to the members of Congress if they'd like to answer, and if not, I'm glad to jump in. Okay, I'll kick it off.
Again, that is the goal of what Senator Blumenthal and I and Congresswoman Schakowsky want to see happen. Okay, we need to have an absolutely tough standard, which is established, dealing with this inherently irresponsible marketing strategy by Tesla with regard to technology, with regard to their autopilot technology. We just need them to shut it down, NHTSA, and just tell them to stop doing it. And we also need to ensure that NHTSA issues a recall that deals with all of the risks that are attended to this. So, and ultimately, it just has to impose penalties where it's very clear that Tesla and other companies are violating safety rules. So there just has to be a strong message that is sent from NHTSA to this quote unquote autopilot market that business as usual is about to come to an end for them.
Yeah, I would just add, no more business as usual. NHTSA has very bluntly stood on the sidelines for too long here. And NHTSA's intervention is particularly important because of the denial and outright deception that we've seen. It would be one thing if the industry were self-policing and self-investigating and disclosing fully to consumers what the dangers and perils are. Instead, they have been dismissive and in denial. And that is particularly a disservice to motorists and pedestrians and everyone else in danger, because it creates a false sense of security and safety. NHTSA has to be particularly aggressive here to say no more business as usual because of the pattern of denial that we've seen.
I don't think there are, thank you, senators. I don't think there are any more questions in the queue right now. So I think we will bring this press conference to a close. You can reach Advocates for Highway and Auto Safety at, my email address is cchase@saferoads.org. Our website is saferoads.org. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. Thank you especially to Senators Richard Blumenthal, Ed Markey, Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, and to Joan Claybrook and Ken McLeod. Thank you for joining us today.